ma'am, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think your daughter's in the back of the car. This is Alex, and I'm here to tell another 10 valet fails. I know you guys love the story so much, so the next 10 are going to be mind-blowing, heart-pounding stories that we've told in our past. So here we go. A customer came into a restaurant and he wanted to be parked up front, and the valet, which was a car guy, was like, is this a kit car? Is this real? And the guy got very offended by that. And when he did, because he looked inside and he saw automatic transmission. Now we know the Bugattis are, to a degree, automatic, but this was a stick, and he knew it was from a Mercury Cougar. So I think this car was based off a Mercury Cougar, and the guy got very upset when he questioned whether his car was real or not, and the guy essentially turned around and left. And then over the years, the valets have actually parked several Bugatti Veyrons, so they know what they look like. And there was something about this one that was a little bit off. Now, this next story was funny. It's not even funny, it's actually quite sad, but we get a call and the valet is asking me, hey, Alex, what should I do? This car has a breathalyzer on it, and the guy wants me to blow into it and start it and bring it up to him. I said, well, was he inside the restaurant or was he inside the bar? He's like, I don't know. Why doesn't he just walk him to the car, let him blow into it? You don't want to be liable for blowing into it or even being nasty blowing into this thing. So let him blow into it. If it doesn't start the car, then he shouldn't be driving it in the first place. But this guy wanted us to blow into the car. Now, rumor has it that another valet at another time did it. So that's why he asked this valet to do it again. But legally, we cannot do that. These guys are not supposed to be in restaurants drinking alcohol. So no, you cannot do that. This story involves a phone call, or actually a text message that I received from one of our competing valet companies. Let me explain. We actually have a very good rapport. A lot of us do talk about security and crime and different things in that area. So when I get a phone call or a text message from him, I'm not surprised. But I received a text message one night and he's like, hey, Alex, I'm sorry about the Bentley getting stolen. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, you had a Bentley stolen last night from XYZ restaurant. I'm like, I'll call you right back. So I call my valets and I said, did a Bentley get stolen? They're like, we didn't tell you? I'm like, no, you didn't tell me a Bentley got stolen. What happened? They're like, don't worry, it's not our fault. I'm like, regardless, what happened? They're like, this guy came in and husband and wife came in and they have a chauffeur, and the chauffeur drove in with a Bentley and dropped him off to eat at the restaurant. So the chauffeur asked where to park, so he circled around and he was right up front within probably 25 feet of the valet podium. So he was sitting there with the car, but the car was running with the air on or the heat on or something like that. And he still walked over to us and asked, just basically chit chat with us. Well, with all the stuff going on with these crimes of stolen cars, these guys hopped in the car, and I call it sliding, slid into this Bentley and took off and stole the car. So that's why it's not our fault. Even though the chauffeur still had the key in his pocket, this car was stolen from our parking lot, but it had nothing to do with us. So I'm like, oh, thank God. I thought a car got stolen and they didn't tell us about it. And this is really horrible. There's a lot of crime going on here in Atlanta where they're sliding into cars. You guys probably heard about Ludacris having his car stolen while he was at the ATM machine, and even Tyrese got his car stolen when he got home late one night. So it's getting to be a really bad problem, and I'm really hard on my valets on making sure all these cars are locked, the podium's locked, secured, and all that at all times. So when I heard that story scared the crap out of me. The next story took place some years ago, and I just recalled it, but it was actually pretty funny. This story happened when the brand new Mercedes SLS came out. And this is at the point where they moved the old Mercedes shifters. You would actually run through the gears and put it in park. This was a new design where it was like a little joystick and you just pressed the letter P to get it into place. Well, Courtney, one of our great valets, he was a phenomenal valet with me for over 7 years, pulled up this car and then put it into park, or so we thought. But little did he know that put it into reverse and made the car start going backwards. And what he was doing was going to the next car to help them and the SLS is now starting to back up and to hit, but it doesn't hit the car. He was able to jump back into the car, put his foot on the brake, and figure out why that car wasn't in park. Then he sees his little P button, and he figures out, obviously, that's what this is. He puts it in park. Everything is good. The next story involves a brand new Porsche 911 Turbo. The guy comes in, he's like, please be extremely careful with my car. And the valet said, yes, sir, no problem at all. One of the best valets. He parked the car, he took it around the circle, he parked the car, and as he's in reverse, he's going backwards, 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 but what he doesn't realize is the exhausts are hanging a little bit lower and the parking block, and he scrapes the exhaust on this Porsche 911 Turbo. This guy goes bananas. He literally just picked up the car, but the valet doesn't realize how low it is compared to the parking blocks that are there. So that one ended up costing us about $900 to replace the tips on the Porsche 911. So the next story is one of my favorite. This is kind of, we talk about this one in the office all of the time. Let me set up this scenario first. This is a restaurant and it's kind of a driveway, and we have to, from the driveway, go behind the houses, and there's a parking lot at the top of the block. So what we do, everybody comes in, we ticket them and just drive through. So our valet takes the car, drives down the alley, and then pulls into the parking lot. Mind you, it's about 8:30 at night. As he's backing into the space, he sees a head pop up. He freaks out. He looks back there, and there's a 9-year-old little girl back there. He's like, what are you doing here? My mom said she wasn't going to date anymore. Apparently, they had just divorced, the parents, and she hid in the car when her mother went out on a date. So the valet's like, I'd be remiss not to go back up to the front of the restaurant. So he drives the car back up to the front. He tells the other valet, please watch this car, make sure nobody gets in or out of it. So he goes inside, he finds the lady, and he's like, ma'am, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think your daughter's in the back of the car. And the lady's response is, good, leave her there. This is the second or third time she's done this, and I'm tired of her sitting there. He's like, well, what do you want me to do? He's like, well, just park the car as you usually do, lock it, and make sure nobody gets in or out. So we park the car, and she's in there basically reading for the entire time that the mom is in there on a date. So one morning, I get up generally about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. We have shifts that are 24 hours, but most of our shifts start at about 8 a.m. So 8:15, I get a text message, Alex, I'm pissed, literally, get me out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm like, what happened? So I don't even respond to him via text. With the text like that, I'm going to give this guy a phone call. So I call him. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, I just sat in piss. I'm like, what? He's like, I've told this building several times that this lady's car smells like urine and she has some type of incontinence. So I got in this morning. My clothes are soaking wet. I'm like, there's nothing I could do right this second. It's going to take me at least 45 minutes to an hour to get someone out there because it's traffic in the morning. He was furious. He refused to park cars. I said, for the time being, do you have any extra kilos in your car? He's like, no, I don't. But I'm like, at least go in, go to the bathroom, and try to wipe off as much as possible, or at least soak up as much as possible. Wash your hands, your clothes. Let me work on getting you a second valet there. But it's going to be about an hour. So please bear with me. He worked with me, but he didn't even want to drive home because he didn't want the smell to transfer. So we had to call a custodian to get a plastic bag for him to sit in so he could drive home, change, and then come back to a later shift. So everybody knows when you come into valet parking, generally speaking, we have a section dedicated just to valet park our cars. We're very strict about it. You can park anywhere else in the parking lot, but the valet area is specific for us. There are several reasons why. One, we park cars close, and we have kind of a pattern. We put SUVs over here, we put regular cars over here, VIPs over there. So if you break our pattern, some of our valets are OCD and they don't like it. Also, for liability reasons, if you come in and open up a door and hit another car, we're going to be responsible for those cars in our lot at that time. So we are very strict that you do not park in valet-only area. Well, this one customer parked in the parking lot, and the valets, I will say secretly, try to make their lives living hell. So what they did, they parked a car within 2 inches on each side of this car. And to the point where the guy had to go through the hatchback to get into the car. So as the valets are running through the parking lot late at night, the guy's like, I can't get into this car. So they have to go up front and get the key, but they slowly take their time in doing so. So the guy was very upset. We ended up moving the car, and he's just cursing at the valets. He went back up to the front into the restaurant to complain to the managers that the valets, what they had done to the car. The manager was great. And he's like, hey, you know what? You're in a valet area. You shouldn't have parked in a valet lot. Kind of serves you right. The guy came outside, got back into the valet's face, still kept arguing with him. And the valet lost it, stuck up his middle finger, and in a sense, got himself fired off of that lot. So even with the most patience that you possibly have, this valet stuck up his middle finger at this customer, even after yelling at him for 20 minutes. But I did have to remove him off that lot, which prompted the valet just to quit anyway. I get a call. I have two valets that are working, and they happen to be cousins. So one of the valets, and this is a two-man shift, I get a call early in the morning, and they said, hey, the other valet's getting arrested. I'm like, what? They said he got into a traffic accident, and he ran into the back of a car. When the cops came out, they realized he had a warrant for his arrest for failure to appear on another traffic violation. So they took him into jail. The car was drivable, so one of them was still able to drive to work, but in the meanwhile, I had to bail out the second valet so I can get him back to work on time. So we were able to bail him out, and the bail was minor. I think it was only $200 or $300, maybe $200 to bail him out, but that was a crazy time that one of our valets got into an accident, ended up getting arrested from that.
I just had an encounter with your two valets at I would like them both fired. They have ruined an $80,000 car, and I expect a phone call back immediately. I will keep calling you. They were rude, they were hostile, and they are incompetent. I will be filing a lawsuit if I do not hear back from you. Thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
So the voicemail that you just heard, that was received obviously on this past Thanksgiving. And what happened, it was a BMW, I think it may be 2018 or 2019 BMW X5. The valet who parked it is also the same valet that pulled it up. First, I have to describe my valet. My valet is by far the quietest, nicest valet that you will ever meet in the world of valet parking. I think he's had one accident in about 10 or 12 years with me. He's a great valet, no issues at all. So when he pulls the car up, the lady realizes when she gets in the car that her infotainment system is all black and it's blacked out. And he doesn't know she's like, what'd you do to my infotainment system? He's like, I didn't do anything. I just literally started the car up and drove it right here. We haven't touched anything. I'm the one that parked it. I'm the one that's pulling it up. So she's like, it wasn't like that. And she got really upset with us. So he said, why don't you just look in the owner's manual? He doesn't even realize that the BMWs, the owner manuals, are now digital within that system. But she was upset. And she's there with her husband and two kids. And she's going on like this. So he gives me a call. I'm just happen to be in front of my computer. I said, just give me a second. I Google it really quickly. And it comes up that this is a known problem. Generally, when a screen goes black on BMWs, it requires a software update. And generally, when you get back to your house and it connects to the Wi-Fi, it's going to update automatically. You'll wake up in the morning, the problem will be solved. So people ask, did I call her back? I didn't call her back. It's now 9 o'clock at night. And generally speaking, unless it's a true emergency, I'm not going to call people back. I did call her the next day, left her a message, and of course, I didn't get a call back. So it leads me to believe that precisely what I said, it probably updated itself and it was corrected because she never called myself or the restaurant back again.
Premier Financial Services has been a sponsor of VINwiki for the last 4 years, and we can't thank them enough for their support, and we love them for that, but also because their simple lease truly is a tremendous product in the world of exotic car financing. They allow you to minimize your payment, minimize your down payment, take all the tax advantages that are available for a lease, while still giving you the ability to move in and out of cars and accumulate equity. So they structure it in a very unique way that's hugely advantageous, gives you a lot more buying power, and their customer service is absolutely incredible. So we love Mitch and their team for their continued support of the channel. We thank them for that, but please visit them at the link in the description below and find out how easy it is to buy your dream car through Premier Financial Services.